Good afternoon and welcome along to the Celtic State of Mind daily bulletin. Weekly bulletin, that's a bit different. It's Wednesday, it's hump day. If you've got to this point, then congratulations. It's all downhill to the weekend from now, unless you're working night shifts, and then I apologise. But I'm joined today on a Wednesday, as usual, by my co-host Amy Canavan. Amy, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing alright, Colin. I just doing away. How are you?
I mean, as I said, it's hump day. It's all downhill to the weekend now. We've got a lot to look forward to. Speaking of a lot to celebrate, I heard you were on a different podcast last night and potentially had something to discuss and celebrate. Do you want to let us know?
Fantastic, Colin. Don't worry. We're back to 4-3 with endless Celts. ACSOM team, we're back. We're well on track. I really enjoyed that. I was on with the guys last night, Stephen and John. They were brilliant. They were really, really brilliant. Had a good time. It's a great podcast. They're still pretty new, but they're set up well. Great talking points, really good discussions as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I was under immense pressure from yourself and Tony Haggerty. I did get messages from both of you. You're both claiming that it was your own pep talk that led me to the win, but I'll assure you I was absolutely kicking it to make sure that I brought this home, because the pressure I was under was unreal. So I'm more than delighted that we're back. I think we're 4-3 now, aren't we? So
yeah,
happy days.
The scoreline I like to keep is the Wednesday team 2, endless Celts now. So
even better.
Exactly. We're running away.
Could we not have made that the banner?
Well, we do have the banner down here, and that is how will John Kennedy line up against Rangers, and we'll touch on that later on in the show. Just before we get started, I just want to touch on something that everyone may have seen on social media over the last 24 hours, and it is the videos circulating surrounding Neil Lennon, and potentially, we don't know when this video was recorded, but people are saying that it was recorded yesterday, and his behaviour and all this kind of stuff. Now, let's be perfectly honest here. To a man, there'll be very few people out there that hasn't been in the state that Neil Lennon was in those videos. I mean, personally, I could name quite a few times where I've been on nights out, I've been at parties to the point of where you're going, look, that's I've drank far too much. You send those texts in the morning saying, oh geez, what did I do? Or I'm really, really sorry. And you do your apologies. All I can say is, for me, I hope that basically he wakes up this morning, if it was yesterday, he grabs a couple of paracetamol, a couple of sliced rolls and a bottle of Iron Brew, and his hangover isn't that bad. A lot of people touching on it saying it's a shambles of disgraces, and look, Neil Lennon's had his troubles in the past, and if he does need the help, then I hope that he's got the team that he needs around him to do so. But for me, I've been in worse states than that. I get put to bed on my 18th birthday with my dad. I mean, that's the kind of states that we're talking about. So, do you know what? He's entitled to do so. He's entitled to get himself drunk. And the person that should be most ashamed of their behaviour is a person that is filming it, trying to antagonise him. That's scummy behaviour. And, I mean, it's terrible. He's just put it on social media to get likes, Amy, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's the worst bit of it all, as you say. What you want about Neil Lennon, and you just have to hope, of course you do, that it's just a drunken night. Obviously, if it's down south, pubs are back open, we're all going to be in a state like that, and let's just hope that it is just for the sake of, like you say, wake up next morning, a few paracetamols, and that's it. You hope it's nothing more, of course you do. But yeah, exactly. The worst bit about it all is the guy filming it. I think there's 2 videos, but especially the one that most people have seen, when he shouts right at the end over to Lennon. That it's quite pathetic. It's extremely childish. It's cowardly. The fact that he films for probably a good minute and then shouts him over, and then obviously the camera goes away straight away. So look, it is a bit of a... It's not something you want to see at all. And as we've said, we can say what you want about Lennon. He's a man at the end of the day, even especially after the few months he's had, then probably, yeah, he does want a little bit of a drink. But at the end of the day, it's the dude that's filmed with it.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm actually expecting to get more grief for saying the word slice roll as opposed to square sausage or lorn or whatever it's said across Scotland than the kind of the reaction you'd expect to that video. But yeah, I mean, look, everybody's going to have a drink. See, when it comes to April 26th, when the pubs open back outside, and I think it's May 17th when you can get back inside, there'll definitely be scenes like that all over the country. So I just want to bring this one point up from Zinkovic. It's a slice roll all day. Yes, we are all slice rolls. It is slice roll. What do you call it through there?
I've never heard of a slice roll.
Is it lorn or is it square sausage? Or?
It's just square sausage, yeah.
No, it's slice. It's slice.
Slice roll.
A slice roll.
That's a new one to me, Colin. Never heard of that.
A slice and totty scone roll. That's the...
Totty. Tatty.
Where did that Glasgow University accent come from there?
Just
totty.
Tatty. Tatty. Tatty scone.
Slice and tatty scone.
Totty.
Alright, whatever. But anyways... Oh, look, it's all coming in now. Square sausage. No, it's slice. It's slice. You get square slice, you get onion slice, you get round slice, you get tunnel slice. Slice is the word. I'm telling you.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll move on. Stephen Welsh given a 4-year deal yesterday. Signed a 4-year deal through to 2025. Have you been impressed with his performances so far this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to meet anybody who doesn't and wouldn't be really quite excited by that news yesterday. I was a bit surprised in that it wasn't a birthday tweet, so again it was great that it was actually a contract announcement, and it's at a weird time. I find that like it's fantastic and just to secure him down, but you know, you're talking about everything like with new coaching staff, management coming in, just chief exec coming in, so in that sense it's a little bit odd, but you know, it's fantastic. He's youthful and been very impressed by him, and as many Celtic fans want, he is a Celtic fan himself, and that's the brownie points right up there. But it's not just about that. He's a fantastic talent. He really is. He's looking strong. He's came in. He's been really commanding. There's last week I think we were talking about where do you see a leader on the park. There's a leader already, and he's only, I don't know how old he is. Is he? I don't actually know. Is he 21, 22, something like that?
21.
Yeah. So, you know, it's great already that you're actually turning to a guy so young and seeing him as a leader. That, you know, that first appearance, he was shouting at the back, screaming at the back, and he looked like a real presence. So it's great to see, it really is. And to get him secured to 2025, that's some promising things. And like I say, it's what you want to see. And yeah, I'm delighted with it. Don't know about yourself.
No, definitely. I mean, I'm just seeing the comments coming through in square sausage, and apparently it's on the slice in certain parts of the country, but it started a bit of a riot in the comments, so I apologise for that. But no, going back to Stephen Welsh, 4-year deal to 2025, all you ask for is to see players coming through that conveyor belt at Lennoxtown, and when you see someone, like, instantly it's like, is he good enough? You don't know until you give him a try, and I seen him when he played down here in Greenock, where we call it slice rolls, and his performances at the championship level, they weren't that great. Now, I don't know if that's because he was getting played out of position at right back, or it's just a kind of different ball game when you drop down to the lower leagues. It's different from the way Celtic try to play, and it didn't suit him. But when he came back and he played that game against Hamilton last season, I saw him at what is it now, the CBD Oil Stadium or whatever it's called at Hamilton. It's had so many names, but he didn't put a foot out of place, and you're thinking, right, well, he's someone that can come in and sort of like, when called upon, we can throw him into the squad. We've not really probably had someone like that since, I don't know, going back as far as maybe Darren Day, maybe Stephen McManus.
Yeah.
That's actually came through the academy. We've seen players come through like Owen O'Connell. I'm trying to think of the other ones. There was a boy that ended up going up to Inverness. Was it McCart? Jamie McCart came through.
Jamie McCart, yeah. There's Stuart Finlay as well.
Yeah,
Kelly's just went over to Philadelphia, hasn't he? So
guys that's never sort of been given a chance to have a run of games in the team. But then you see someone like Welsh, and obviously this season I'd imagine if we had been playing extremely well and there'd been a partnership formed between Julian and I, or if Julian never got injured, if there'd been a partnership with Shane Duffy, it's another bad word to say on here, we wouldn't have seen the boy Welsh, and he would have probably left the club. And this is the kind of things that happens, that there's so many of these young players coming through the conveyor belt that don't get given the chance, and then when they do get given the chance, we see we're actually developing some really young, good talent.
Yeah, absolutely, and everything you just said there is spot on. You know, you're mentioning those names, Jamie McCart, Stuart Finlay. You know, these are talented boys as well. So that you're just never really getting the chance to see them. And you look at, you know, the plethora of players that have been in the Celtic Academy over the years, and they're now trying to make a name for themselves around the Premiership. So it's great, as you said, that I can't personally remember him at Morton. It's not really a team I follow that fondly, Colin, I must admit. But anytime he's came into the lineup, I'm just delighted to see him. There is a player there that really is, and I think a few of the comments are coming in as well. And you know, you just have a decent, experienced player beside him, and I mean Ayer or Julian even, and it's only going to help him develop. It really is. So it is fantastic to see. Yeah,
and when we look at what the main topic is today, how will John Kennedy line up against Rangers? I heard Kevin and Russell talking about it on Monday. It's the fact that when you see that team sheet come out on Sunday, it is now, you'll see Stephen Welsh's name there and you'll go, well, yeah, no issues with that at all. It's not one of those ones where you're going, we're throwing Welsh into a big game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. You're more than happy to see him in there, and that's what you want. And it's great to get the youth. Like, you need that, you do. And we are really scraping the barrel at the back of the season. So the fact that you can, you know, give him that chance. Obviously, he'd had that chance, as you said, against Hamilton last season. But there's obviously something in training as well that Lennon did see at the time, and that there was that confidence there. This doesn't all just happen, you know, by accident. So it's great, of course, that he took his opportunity. But no, it's absolutely fantastic that you can rely on him at such a young age.
Yeah, definitely. Only 21, still going to develop, and playing alongside guys like Chris Ayer, like Chris Julian, he's only going to develop playing alongside these players and actually being coached through the games. But you see it as well, he's already kind of commanding his area, he's telling people where to go, where to mark up. So for such a young age, he's got a lot of kind of wise wisdom on his shoulders, and I think he'll be one that will be in and around the squad. Whether he'll be the first choice next season, I'm not 100% sure, but he's definitely going to be someone that if an injury comes up, then you go, I can throw Stephen Welsh in there, no bother.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'd have him in the starting lineup, I really would. You know, we probably are going to lose Ayer this year. It's a tough market. You look at every top club basically across the continent. They're crying out for defenders, and the ones that are, if it's Van Dijk obviously, or if it's you know, if it's anybody like, I can't, it's a bad thing to start a list, I can't think of anybody right now, my mind's went total blank. But you know, all the top clubs are basically they're crying out for a centre half. They really are. You look at down at Man City, even like Cancelo's out, they're struggling a little bit, and they're going into, obviously they signed Diaz, and these guys are all getting swiped up by the big clubs. So there are that next banner really struggling for defenders. So no, I'd go straight away and chuck him in, because he's not done anything wrong. He doesn't deserve to be dropped, and ultimately that would be what would be happening next season. You'd be dropping him. The fact that he's really a first team player now towards the end of the season. So I'd have him in there, because I don't see us bringing in anybody a lot better. We can't be, you know, shouting and praising and trying to go, right, we need to delve into our academy, we've got the talent there, and then have the talent, maybe only then give them 15 to 20 appearances, but then go and sign somebody who will need a little bit of bleeding in time, blending in, and then you've got a perfectly fit Welsh just sitting there. So no, I really would have him in straight away next season, and definitely a big part of the plan.
Yeah, I'm just going to discuss this comment that's been brought up by Lewis Laird. Lewis Laird, part of the Cynic team, who actually spends a lot of time looking at players that's out on loan, and it's just going to tie into a point that you just mentioned about Van Dijk as another defensive option for next season. Lewis says, not really put a foot wrong even when he's been thrown in, good bit of business, and be part of the squad for years to come, I think, and I agree with that, and that's exactly what you were just saying there as well, Amy. But you did mention the aforementioned Virgil van Dijk. And it's not the first time he's been mentioned this week, as John Hughes compared on loan Celtic defender Leo Helge to be the next Virgil van Dijk. Now, I think the boy's only 17. I think he'll be 18 when he comes back in the summer. His birthday's kind of over the summer period. And he's done really well on loan at Ross County. You're looking for the youngsters that's coming through the Celtic Academy to be given that opportunity to play against teams that, when they come back to Celtic, that's the kind of level they'll be playing against. Helge played 9 games, scored 1 goal, kind of almost a first choice for Ross County at centre-back now. Yogi says that he's been inundated with interest from Premier League clubs, including Leeds. He's compared them to Virgil van Dijk. Is he going to be another option for Celtic next summer, or next season even, or is it a case of we'll probably put him back out on loan again?
Well, Yogi's putting a hell of a pressure on him, isn't he? He's 17
definitely.
years old.
Yeah.
He's 17 years old. So for starters, I don't think that'll do him any good, if I'm honest with you. It's great, of course, that you've got your manager coming out and supporting you. At the end of the day as well, it's a loan deal, so Hughes is going to want to, he's wanting to sell him basically and go, look, this guy's a player. And he'll do anything probably to try and get him back on loan next season. So it's all about you're trying to give him a little bit of support, because obviously he's put that confidence in him. But to compare him to Virgil van Dijk, a £75 million rated, defender, captain of the Netherlands, that is quite the comparison. Many a player.
Can you imagine him walking into training the next day when the gaffer's just told you you're the next Van Dijk, just swaggering in?
Exactly, his head's not going to fit through the door. So I'm not the biggest fan of that at all. If I'm honest, again, it's also 9 appearances. Let's not get carried away with ourselves here. He's 17 years old, 9 appearances. Yes, he scored a goal. Yeah, it's great that he's walked it into that first team at Ross County, and it's fantastic. It's a really good setup they've got going, and Yogi's certainly built up a decent little team up there. So, again, as I say, it's fantastic that he's getting the backing for his manager, and that's going to give him a lot of confidence. You don't want him to get carried away. You could easily be sitting thinking, wow, has he maybe been talking to Celtic? Is he thinking, wow, that this is, I'm a shoo-in to start next season? To be comparing him to Virgil van Dijk, like, he'll come in and have an armband around him and break down the doors at Lennoxtown. I'm not the biggest fan of that at all. And at 17 years old, of course you can't say that, you just got to take it on the chin, and we've all been there. I'm 20. If I got told that, I'd be busting the doors open. Of course you would be. So you can't think that wouldn't affect them. And if it doesn't affect them, then he has made the strong stuff. Because imagine telling your pals that, you're talking about obviously walking into training ground. Imagine going into your group chat or whatever, and I've just been compared to Virgil van Dijk, who's a £75 million player. My God.
I think that, just to kind of sidetrack on that, when we were going through school, we had a football department trip, and it was down to Chelsea, and we got to train at the Chelsea Training Academy, which is in Cobham. I think it's now moved. I think they've upgraded it since then, but basically we were playing on one of the parks, training with the Chelsea and the community coaches, and on the other parks you could see guys like Mikael Ballack and stuff like that coming through, Drogba. So they were training on one park, we were training on the other, and there was me and another boy at centre half, and the big Chelsea defender just kept saying, Colin Hendry, Colin Hendry, Colin Hendry. So, I mean, it's no Virgil van Dijk, but being compared to Colin Hendry is probably not the worst thing in the world. Well, it didn't stop us from conceding a few goals, but it's not the same, but it's a funny anecdote. Let's be honest, the boy's kind of coming through here. He's only 17 years old, so if he doesn't kind of take the side of things where his head's going to get completely blown up by this, then it shows that he's a mature player, and that's the kind of player you want in your team. When I look at it, it's a very similar transaction to when Chris Ayer went on loan to Kilmarnock. Now, they were struggling at that point as well. This is when they were sitting in the bottom half of the Premiership. I think this is maybe, I'm trying to think who the manager of Kilmarnock would have been at the time. It was kind of before Steve Clark.
I I can't remember who played under, if I'm honest with you, Colin. I really can't.
We got Paul coming in saying it was Lee Clark at the time.
There you go. So
he was to the stage where, Kilmarnock were sitting bottom half of the Premiership, but Ayer was the standout player. And it's kind of a similar scenario here with Helge coming through at Ross County. He's one of the standouts. Then within sort of 12, 18 months, you've got someone that is now a permanent fixture of the first team in Chris Ayer. I'm not saying that history's going to repeat himself, but it surely puts you in good stead to maybe get some game time at Celtic next season.
I don't know. I'm really struggling to support it on this one. I just feel that it's just filling his head with a lot. Again, as you said, it'd be great, but you see all these comments coming in. How many times have you heard the new Basro? There you go, the new Jimmy Johnston, the new Kenny Dalglish. It's never really. It never takes off. You can't label somebody like that. He is just a bairn. And that's spot on. And I think more than anything, it's the mind. There's all these comments coming in going, hey, what's Welsh's size? How tall is he? What's his build like? He's not strong enough. He's not this. He's not that. More than anything, is reading the game. You look at even Kieran Tierney, his development. The strength and everything was there from an extremely young age, but his reading of the game really did improve over that 2-3 year period. You go and you look back, and we all jumped on the bandwagon straight away with Tierney, and rightly so, but there was decision making that wasn't quite right. Now he was okay because he was supported at the back. He had a really experienced team around him, and he had a good centre half pairing beside him, and everything was quite strong. If he's coming in and playing beside Stephen Welsh, who's equally as really first team inexperienced as him, then you've not really got that scope for error. And it's totally different ballgame being the centre halves to being the left back or the right back, whatever it may be. So I just feel like there's a lot of pressure to be putting on him, and I don't see him coming back from the summer and walking into any sort of Celtic team. As Fraser says there, I would certainly send him back alone. I don't think people give enough credit with Chris Ayer going out to Kilmarnock. I think that was a tremendous period. I know you just referred to it there, but that's the period of time that they're going to learn so much, and that is where the physical game develops as well, because you're a more relegation battle. It's tougher games, it's tougher conditions. Every week is a cup final when especially at this stage of the season, when you're at a Ross County especially when you're at a Kilmarnock. So it's fantastic, and that's where the mind develops as well. So for me, absolutely, I'd keep her alone. Maybe don't know about sending him back to Ross County if Yogi's just going to keep comparing him to Virgil van Dijk, but he's obviously doing something right. So I'd happily have him back at Ross County, absolutely, because it's clear that relationship's there. Obviously, John Hughes is extremely fond of him, so that's fantastic for him. But maybe just ease a little bit on the comparisons, definitely.
Yeah, I was just going to discuss about the idea of it. Does it depend on which position in the park you play? Because as you said, Kieran Tierney came through. We can see his class from a very young age, but at left back, you're sort of maybe more protected than what you are at centre half. At centre half, you're expected to be the kind of dominant player, the person that you really can't make a mistake. At left back, you could probably get away with one or two. And as the comments are coming through saying, I think I've seen Lewis Laird coming back in again, who does really well actually going to watch a lot of these loan players. So he's seen Leo's games. He's also seen someone else that's out on loan that could potentially come into this discussion as well, and Ewan Otu, who's on loan at Clyde. But these players are playing at left back for their teams as well as centre half. Now, as I just mentioned previously, Stephen Welsh is playing at right back as opposed to centre half, so you've got that versatility as well. I think for us, if you look at the left back discussion, he's probably not going to get in ahead of Greg Taylor. I don't know where the future lies for Volleyball and Golly. I think if you left it to the fans, they probably wouldn't have him back in. But then the discussion on Monday of, well, he's going to be here and it's going to be up to the new coach on what he does with him. Then you're also looking at Diego Laxalt, who's been rumoured to come in as part of the Edward deal. For me, I would concentrate on him being a centre-half for his development. I know when Chris Ayer was out on loan at Kilmarnock at games, he played defensive mid as well, and you saw he's got that capability. He did it at the weekend when he drove forward to play the ball into Elyounoussi for his goal. But when you look at the kind of centre-half options we've got, I'd rather he kind of developed as a centre-half. It's good to have that versatility, but I'd like him to have that one position.
Yeah, John Hughes has said that himself as well. He's like primarily as a centre half, and that's where you want him to play. Then, of course, it's fantastic that he can be versatile, and if need be, it's been fantastic this season when we've needed Ayer to drift out to the right, that you can rely on him. But at the end of the day, you want them to play where they're comfortable and where they're best fit. And if he's having a loan deal at centre half, you don't then want him coming to Celtic then and playing left back. What's the point of him being on a loan deal and being a centre half? It maybe doesn't look that different a role, but that's two massive different roles. So you're spot on in what you're saying. You want him to come in and be centre half, but as I said, I think right now the right thing is to keep him out on loan, developing. At 17, 18, he's got a long career ahead of him. So I just wouldn't be rushing anything too much. And touching on what you said, for me, Greg Taylor is undoubtedly the number one.
Yeah, if you take a look at it as well, there was another interesting discussion on Go Radio last night where Jack Henry actually dialed in and was speaking to the team there. And to quote what he said, he says he believes he could have made an impact at Celtic, but wasn't fully given the chance. And also mentioned that he's advised his representatives to make sure that he's playing at the highest level possible next season, regardless of where that is. Now, a lot of people have said that kind of opens the door for him to potentially be given a fresh start under a new management team at Celtic. He would have 12 months left on his deal. Do you think he's another one that will come into the new manager's thought process to maybe give him the pre-season and see what happens?
Well, it has to be. We touched on it on the back of the internationals. I was extremely impressed with Jack Hendry. And you keep bringing up Lewis Laird. Obviously, he looks at him in great depth out in Belgium, and anything that you see from him is extremely promising. So I really would bring Hendry back. I'd let him have another go. He's been in a three-man defence this season, and he's been at the centre of that. Obviously, at Celtic, it doesn't look like he'd be coming into like that back five, but he's built up a lot of experience, and he's the main man at being in the middle, and it's fantastic that he's gaining that leadership. So I'd certainly bring him back, and maybe this is exactly what he needs. Maybe a manager who's doesn't really know many preconceptions. There was a lot, obviously, that he was Dundee material but not Celtic material, and it's sort of, it just sort of carried around with him at the end of the day. So he's went out and totally excluded himself from the media, from the situation, really, and just went and really focused on himself. And like I say, when he came back and he played for Scotland, I was extremely impressed by him. When you're walking into a decent Scotland defence, I know people might laugh at that, but what I mean is that Steve Clarke sets them up really, really well. So really regimented defence. Again, maybe if you look at it doesn't always look it, but off the ball, the shape is there, everything really is there. And there's a reason why Steve Clarke has managed to get Scotland to qualify for the Euros, because there's a bit of structure that hasn't been there over the last few years. So Jack Hendry being in that, managing to walk in and really performing, I think that's only a good thing to see, absolutely.
You take a look at it, who could potentially be the options for the new manager when he comes in that centre-half position next season. You've got Christopher Ayer, who may or may not be there depending on the interest in him. Obviously, we've heard before that AC Milan were interested. It'll be interesting to see who comes in this summer. You've got Stephen Welsh, as we just mentioned, new 4-year deal through to 2025. He's only 21 years old. Jack Henry coming back in, whether his deal with, is it Ostend over in Belgium? Yeah. I think they've got an option to buy. Whether that goes ahead or not, I still think he'll be back in for pre-season. You've got Leo Helge, who'll come back in, only 18 years old. Chris Julian, who will be back, we believe, around October, November time. So that's already 5 centre-halves. Potentially we're talking about Helge going out on loan again. You've also got young Ewan Otu, who's out on loan at Clyde at the minute, who seems to be putting in outstanding performances there. I think he's had a couple of assists. He's playing left-back, and he's kind of shown that he's far better than the league that he's playing at the minute. So maybe he'll go out on loan to a Championship or a Premiership side next season. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely adding a bit of depth with some of these players that we're talking about there, and that's before the new manager potentially goes and buys his own players. And one of the big things I thought for this season was we sort of went into this period or this season and we just didn't have that cover at centre-half. I mean, okay, everybody was delighted when Shane Duffy came in, but then it still only really left you with Ayer, Duffy and Julian. Welsh wasn't kind of discussed as part of the first team squad. He was still a development player, but he's shown what he can do. So then you're potentially going in next season with Ayer, Welsh, Hendry, Julian, and that's before we sign someone else or before someone departs. It's not a bad basis to start your rebuild from.
Yeah, it is as a basis, but as you've touched upon there, it is a rebuild, so there is a need to be bringing back, Jack Hendry and giving him that opportunity, because if you're wanting that clean slate, then the manager has, or the head coach has the right really to view everybody at his dispense and make his own judgment upon it. What's the point in him, maybe Neil Lennon didn't judge Hendry as Celtic material, but who's to say that the incoming manager won't? And we're talking about Moya Elyounoussi. If it should be the manager, if it should be the new head coach or manager coming in, if they should get to make the decision of the permanent deal or not. But it's roles reversed as well, so it's great if he comes in, but it's the same about going out. Maybe he sees a player in Hendry, maybe he sees a player in Helst. So it's a great basis to have, and as you said, then you just got to hope that the manager or the head coach, whatever it may be, has money as well at their dispense, that they can also build upon this pretty strong basis.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a position where we've definitely struggled this season. A lot of the goals have came from the fact that we've never really had a settled centre-back pairing. Going into the game on Sunday, definitely Ayer and Welsh are your first choices, and that's just the way it's been, and it's kind of sad that it's came to this point of the season before you know who your first choice centre-back pairing are, and without the injury to Chris Jullien, would that have even been the case? So going into Sunday, Ayer and Welsh at centre-half. We'll build the rest of the team later on in the podcast, but that's what we've got. In goals as well, Scott Bain, he's kind of nailing down that number one position, isn't he?
God, I don't know if you can use the term nailing down that number one position, but he's played the last few games. It's probably one of the longest runs that one goalkeeper has had this season. So maybe that is. I thought he played all right against Livingston. I know he certainly wasn't challenged and it wasn't under a lot of pressure, but I think, was it 3-0 or 4-0 up, he did have to make a big save, and he came out and used his body well. And again, I know a lot of fans will go, right, well, he's expected to make that save, but when you've not really had a lot to do all game, it's good to just see him switched on. And I'm not trying to big him up, it's not been an outstanding season from any goalkeeper really, but it's great to see a little bit of consistency. So absolutely, you have to hope, of course, that Bain really does start on Sunday for that consistency. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Kevin or Russell that mentioned it on Monday, but it's just a case of seeing him make those saves, because that's what a goalkeeper's there for. He's there to make the saves, and it's something that we hadn't really seen a lot of this season. So whether it was kind of routine saves or not, at least he's making them. It builds up his confidence. I've seen kind of clips of him on social media where he's going away and doing extra training so that he makes himself even better. That's all you can ask of people, is that they try and get the best out of whatever ability they've got. So many people made a Celtic career on the fact that basically we knew where their level was, but they gave 100%. That's all you can ask from them. Yeah,
and that sort of ties in with Greg Taylor as well. Greg Taylor gets a lot of stick. I am in the fan club of Greg Taylor, but at the end of the day, no matter what, he's maybe not going to be the next Kieran Tierney. They were massive boots to fill, but he gives 110%, and nobody can really deny him off that. Touching on that, I thought Taylor had a really great game the other day. I think is it the second goal, Turnbull's goal. I thought that was a great ball from Taylor into Elyounoussi. So I think there's a little bit of a relationship going there as well, which is fantastic. I think Taylor is better fit for Elyounoussi, and he doesn't maybe do a lot wrong, Taylor. He just maybe doesn't do enough. I think maybe that's the issue for fans, because I don't see him make many errors. Touch wood, that says the same. I'm really touching wood, but I don't make sure I've not jinxed that. But I am being really impressed by him. He's, like I say, he came from Kilmarnock. We need to remember where they got him. And like I say, 110%, that really is all you can ask for. He's never not going out and doing his all for the jersey.
Just before we start building the rest of the team for the game on Sunday, I just want to give you a couple of minutes here to have the Wednesday rant. The Wednesday rant, sponsored by Amy Canavan, and it is on comments that was made by Joe Ledley on the Huddle podcast the other day about potentially coming back in and doing some training at the club back in 2019. I believe it was turned down because the manager, who I think was Neil Lennon at the time, said they didn't want any speculation about him potentially signing for him. It wasn't someone we were looking at. Joe then goes on to play for Charlton, Newcastle Jets, and then now he's signed for Newport County down in League 2 of England. Now, Amy, we've known, anyone that's a regular listener on a Wednesday will know that Joe Ledley was one of your favourites. It was a potential to see him in the Celtic jersey, maybe for a pre-season game, a bit like when Brendan Rodgers played his son in one of those games. Just to see Ledley pull back that strip back on. Go on, give us your 2-minute rant. Let's hear it.
I think there's genuinely actually tears in my eyes right now. I can feel the water. I was devastated listening to that. I really was. I remember there's always been links with Ledley, especially because he went through such long periods of not really being associated with a club or whatever. But it was just heartbreaking. I really was really devastated. As you said, I would love to have just seen him, just even in and around. It'd have been Gary McKay, even probably still with number 16 at that time. He could have. I don't care. Ledley would have got that. It's disappointing. I'd have loved to have seen him back. I really would. I think there was quite a few opportunities in the last few years. Maybe not 2019, that I'd have still had a Ledley in there. Maybe for him it wasn't the perfect move for him if he wasn't going to be a starter, but that's just me being totally biased. I'm infatuated by the guy, and he was by no doubt my absolute favourite player. So of course, if there's any chance that he was dying to come back and somebody didn't allow it, then I am heartbroken, to say the least. I really am. And I was listening to it, and it was literally like my dream. It was Mark Wilson and Joe Ledley together. Like, what more could anybody want? And just to hear that he was so close, it was gutting. But it's fair play to him. Like he says, he tried to go over to Australia, and that's him now back down at he's down in Newport. So he's down, obviously, like you say, League 2 in England, down based in Wales. So it's great to see him back here, and that means hopefully that he'll be back up to Celtic Park a little bit sooner rather than later. And believe you me, I will be there.
And that was the Wednesday rant, sponsored by Amy Canavan. Come back next week and we'll see what Amy has to rant about for a couple of minutes. But no, I just wanted to bring that up. I saw your tweet yesterday, and I was laughing quite a bit at it, so I felt as if this is your platform.
I was crying.
But going back to another player that's potentially leaving the club, or it looks as if is definitely on his way out the door, is Patrick Klimala. The Polish striker is on his way to New York Red Bulls for a fee believed to be around 3.5 million. 3 goals in 28 games. I'm just going back to when Klimala was actually announced. Oh, a nice wee message in from our regular listener, Highland Paddy. Amy loves Joe. I think Amy's desperate for that to say it the other way around as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the borders are opening up soon. Maybe you'll be able to go down to Newport.
Never been. Let's go. I'm on a road trip.
Wednesday team on tour. But no, Klimala leaving to go to New York, pending, I think it's a visa that he requires to go over there. 3 goals in 28 games, and going back to when he was announced, Celtic announced him on TikTok, which is a social media platform for anyone that is maybe of a generation that doesn't know what TikTok is. And it was surreal at the time. It was the whole idea of let's get rocking, and everyone was kind of expecting, well,
it was on his jumper, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what he was wearing. That's what he was wearing when he arrived in Glasgow. I mean, you could probably fit Klimala's highlights of his Celtic time into a TikTok video, and for anyone that doesn't know, they're roughly about 60 seconds long, so it kind of sums it up. Oh, what do you make of this then?
I think if we get 3.35 million, whatever it may be, fantastic. That's terrific. It's not worked out at all. It's a shame. I think especially we first signed him and then he was a little bit thin. But remember when he came back and he bulked up and everyone was like, "Wow, this is a better player here." And it's just not really worked out. You can say what you want if he's maybe not been given his chance, but I think he's been maybe not enough. But we've not had time this season to try and bleed them in for 10, 15 games. It's not ideal. It's far from ideal. But like I say, to be getting 5 million, whatever it is, to be getting any sort of money back. I think that's a fantastic bit of business, and good luck to him. There clearly has to be a bit of a player in there. He's certainly looking more of a player, and he's going out to a decent wee setup. There's a few ex-Celts over there as well, so it's fantastic. And like you say, just good luck to him, really.
And we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when it was yourself, me, and Kevin McCluskey, who will be joining us on Wednesdays going forward, hopefully in the next week or two once he gets his schedule sorted out. But we were speaking about it, and we're saying, like, well, yeah, all the best to him. We didn't really expect at the time he was going to be going on a permanent basis. We'd heard it would be a loan deal, but this has been kind of rumbling on for a while now, and the fact that he's kind of now leaving, it shows maybe why he wasn't in the squad for the game against Livingston on Saturday. I don't expect him to be in the squad now for the game on Sunday, not with this ongoing, but I think we paid £3.5 million for him, so to get that money back is actually a fantastic bit of business, considering we signed a guy that had basically scored 13 goals in the Polish second division, and we expected him to come up and do wonders in Scotland. It was another Bio signing, another someone that we spent far too much money on. You put Bio's fee and Klimala's fee together, and that is your fee for the boy at Brentford. What's his name again? Slipped my mind completely. Ivan Toney. £6 million. Now, who would you rather have had, Klimala and Bio or Ivan Toney?
Oh, I know my answer.
Yeah, and that's what it comes back to. It's quality over quantity. You see it, Celtic have spent the big money when they need to spend the big money. You brought in Chris Julian, you brought in Odsonne Edouard. Look, if the £6 million, just go out and spend it. Instead of signing these sort of project players and hoping that we're going to make our money back on them. And I think, by luck, we've managed to do this with Klimala.
Yeah, and it is possibly by luck, and like I say, I just really hope that is the fee we get from. But it's spot on. Everybody knows that we should have went for Toney, and really have just pushed the boat out for him. It's no surprise that he's doing what he's doing down at Brentford, not at all. So it's disappointing, and it just sort of seems to be the same old story, really. So that's a whole part of the rebuild as well, the clean slate, that you're hoping that these mistakes really don't happen. Of course, we're going to have missed opportunities. I'm not saying that everything is going to go spot on and everything's going to go plain sailing now if we get a new sort of structure in. But you've got to hope that when there is a talent there and we can spot that talent, if it be Toney, that we really then go do and attack it. Like you say, it's quality over quantity. And I understand, obviously, whoever it may be must have thought that there was a player in Bio and Klimala. And I do actually think there's a bit in Bio, but it's not working out for whatever reason. And I think more things than just ability needs to be taken into consideration. Like just climate and like you say, the level of which we're playing at. Maybe Klimala looks fantastic in the second league in Poland, but like you say, you're asking him really to come in and probably play alongside Edouard or something like that, then, or replace Edouard, whatever that may be. That's a big jump. So, like you say, it is quality over quantity, and you've got to hope that that'll be the mantra going forward.
And he joins Cameron Harper and Andrew Gutman out there for the Celtic kind of trio playing for the Red Bulls. You've got Ronnie Deila as the manager of New York City Football Club. That New York derby's got a bit of a Celtic feel to it now, eh?
Absolutely, it really does.
And I think Gary Mackay-Steven was out there. Someone told me the other day, I'm pretty sure it was Efren Juarez is Ronnie Deila's assistant out at New York City.
Wow.
And he did have the boy we signed on loan from Cardiff. What was his name again? When Ronnie Deila signed him, Joe Inga Berge.
Oh, Berge, yeah.
Yeah, he was also out there at New York City. So I don't know if he still is now. But I mean, New York City really getting that Celtic feel. I'm sure the New York CSC out there is loving that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we touch on it because he's probably not going to be playing at the weekend, which means he's out of contention. So you're left with Lee Griffiths, Albion Ayeti and Odsonne Edouard. Now, are you looking at potentially playing one up front or two up front at the weekend?
At the weekend, I'd go just Edouard. Just start with Edouard. In all honesty, I would just play the same 11 from Livingston. I really would. I feel there's no. I like the 4-3-3. I really thought both Elyounoussi, I think that's how we got the best out of Elyounoussi at the weekend. Edouard would drift over at the left, allow Elyounoussi he didn't just need to hug that touchline and the byline, so I think it really aided him. And I just really thought everything was linking up well. Edouard and Forrest were linking up, and Turnbull just behind him. I thought everything that you'd really want to see creatively was there at the weekend, so I would take that going forward. It was a decent enough bench as well. You've got Rogic, you've got Christie. It's a decent bench to be looking to as good as can be, really. So I would definitely just go with Edouard, with Elyounoussi and Forrest either side of him there.
Now, I was doing the game on Saturday for a Celtic State of Mind. It was Paul, Laura and myself. And there was quite a lot of criticism coming in for Edouard. Basically, I don't know. I've always seen him as a big game player. I think when you see these big games, that's when he turns up, especially when he's playing for his country. I mean, his goal record for the under-21s for his country is phenomenal. And some people say, well, that's under-21s, but a lot of these players that are under-21 are mainstays for their own teams across Europe, so I wouldn't really go down that argument. But it has been shown that at times, depending on who we're playing, it's whether he is a good game or not. And I always feel as if he turns up in these Glasgow derbies. So I would have him up front. And I like the fact that he's had this great interplay with Mohamed Elyounoussi recently. They seem to kind of understand each other's wavelength, and playing off each other kind of comes naturally to them. So when you're playing that sort of 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, whatever it is, one thing is you've got to go down the right-hand side with Elyounoussi. The opposition's right-hand side, our left-hand side. That's where we got a lot of kind of joy in the game a couple of weeks ago. I think they played Leon Balogun at right back, and then the boy Patterson came on in the second half, and that's where it nullified out. But this is, if it's Patterson or if it's Balogun that's playing out in that side, it's someone that doesn't have a lot of experience in these games, and you're coming up against someone who's an international for his country, does extremely well. You've got to kind of take advantage of that. The boy for Rangers, whether it's Patterson or Balogun, is either going to step up to the plate, or we're going to have that joy down there. That's the areas you have to target.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think Barisic. I've watched Rangers quite a bit recently, actually, and I haven't been the most impressed with Barisic. He's struggling. I feel he's struggling a little bit. So, like you say, you want to capitalise on that. And if it be Nathan Patterson, I'm quite impressed by him. Big praise is coming in for him. And whoever it may be, but like you say, that's you see it time and time again when it comes to Rangers. You see the comments coming in that the 4-2-3-1 suits us and the 4-3-3 then suits them. I don't think right now that the 4-2-3-1 is suiting us. We play a 4-3-3 at the weekend and you win 6-0 now. I understand it was Livingston, and Livingston certainly weren't at their best. It wasn't Livingston that we've faced in recent times, but yeah, maybe in January, whatever, the 4-2-3-1 did work for us against Rangers. But you're looking at right, the 4-3-3, the 4-3-3. Oh, we need that extra 3 as well. We certainly need that. If you're saying that suits Rangers playing, us playing Rangers, then that's not what matters, though. If it be the 4-3-3 that suits us right now, then who cares what suits them? It has to be whatever is suiting Celtic at this time, and I believe that could be the 4-3-3. Really, it's all the same. It really is. It's just a little bit of movement, but I don't think you can. You talk about you can't change that winning formation. I feel going into this, the way that we've been playing recently, it has to be the 4-3-3.
And then the other side of that sort of three is James Forrest, a player who was only his second game back really at the weekend. There, I thought he had a terrific performance. I know he came off the bench for a game, but I'm classing this as his second start. And I thought he played really, really well. You see him pull up after 58 minutes. Now, I don't think he would have played a lot longer than those 58 minutes. I think he would have started to be considered for coming off sort of around the 60, 65 minute mark, the kind of time Celtic love to make a substitution. So for him to kind of be stiff and be tight round about that period of time, that kind of suggests that's the kind of stage he's at for his comeback. And if he's not 100% fit right now, then I can't wait to see him when he's 100%, because he just looked as if that kind of sharpness, that touch, that pace, it never left him.
Absolutely, and I spoke about it with the guys last night. That first touch for his first goal, that's no mistake. The finish probably wasn't the cleanest, but that delightful little ball from Edouard into Forrest, and the way that he took that shows that there's confidence there as well. So he is, like you say, if that's him only at whatever it may be, 65-70%, then fantastic. I can't wait to see what it is when he's at 100. And if you get an hour out of him on Sunday, then fantastic. It's one of those ones that everybody goes, oh, well, Forrest doesn't really turn up against Rangers. He's always struggled a little bit. Who else are you really filled with confidence right now? I wouldn't really be bringing in Christie. Again, it would be shaking up different formations, really. And I would go with Forrest. I think it's shown right now. Look at his enthusiasm on at the weekend. What was it? Saturday. I understand there's not, obviously the Scottish Cup, there is a lot to play for, and you have to hope that everybody's really going into that with that mentality. If the league gets a little bit trickier, you can see that there are quite a few deflations out there. Forrest is probably one of the only ones, really, unless it's those who are wanting to move away. He really has something to play for. He is trying his hardest, clearly, to break into that Scotland setup for the Euros, and rightly so. So I think that's crucial to have as well there. You look at his enthusiasm after the goal, and it's personal development as well, but it's fantastic to see that he's really getting engaged and it's in that squad, and I think he brings out the best with Callum McGregor as well. I just think everything links up better when Forrest is in there, so I absolutely would have him starting.
We're obviously waiting to hear what the update is from his injury. I know John Kennedy came out after the game saying he was a bit stiff, he was starting to feel a bit tight. We'll probably find out when the press conference is on Thursday or Friday how fit he actually is. And with that in mind, is that someone that you start with James Forrest, knowing that he could potentially pull up after maybe 10-15 minutes, or is he an option to come off the bench?
Again, like you say, it's obviously going to be dependent on how what really went on at the weekend, but I would be starting him. I know that's a massive risk to take, and you don't maybe want to do anything too risky so close into his recovery and his return. But this is a massive game. It's kind of is season defining. Every Scottish Cup game every Scottish Cup game now is season defining. It certainly is. So it's crucial that the best players are on the pitch, and it's not speaking out of turn when you're saying right now James Forrest really is one of the best players.
So we're going with Forrest, Elyounoussi and Edouard up front. We've already picked the back five of Bain. I assume we're going with Kenny. I don't think there's another option to come in there, is there? So Kenny, I are Welsh, and we've both agreed on Greg Taylor to play in there. There was a bit of discussion on Monday about whether Diego Laxalt was John Kennedy's kind of go-to man. I think for this game it'll probably be Greg Taylor, although I did enjoy that conversation on the Monday show, which basically only leaves us the three in midfield. Now, if you look at it, I think, Amy, you've already said you'd kind of go with the team that played on Saturday there, so that would bring in Brown, McGregor and Turnbull. Now, for me, I think Turnbull hasn't shown his best in a Celtic jersey when he's came up in these games. I think the game at New Year kind of went by him far too quickly. I think the game recently, he was only just about growing into it, and then he started to get tired, and you could see him coming off. There's been a lot of discussion on whether he can actually play a 90-minute game. You see him probably coming off after 65-70 minutes every week. A lot of that could be, for example, him just coming back from this long-term injury. And he has only played 2 90 minutes this season, and that was the games after the Dubai break. So again, like we said with Forrest, you give him the start and he plays 60 minutes and you get the best 60 minutes out of him. Is that the same with Turnbull as well? He has to start?
Oh, Turnbull has to start. He really does. I appreciate what you're saying, that maybe in these bigger games it's not, they've maybe went by him a little bit too quick, but he's still young and he is new to these big games, so he's only going to get better the more that he plays in. I just think he's so crucial. I think he really benefited as well from Forrest. I think everybody benefits from Forrest being back, I really do. But I thought Turnbull just had that little bit more freedom. He had that other link. I think for him, Christie is a little bit too similar to Turnbull, that he makes those inward runs and it doesn't offer the Turnbull's always looking for who's out on the wing, and Christie can sometimes cut in a little bit too quick, and he just wants to drive and he just wants to shoot. So Forrest hugging that byline, and really offering that space, and beating his man quite easily. Even when he's not fully fit, he's still beating the defenders, and he can give him that ball and he'll make it. Even if he doesn't, he's giving it one hell of a try. And if it goes out for a corner, then you've got David Turnbull there as well, which is absolutely fantastic because his delivery right now is second to none. And again, that's something so crucial that Celtic have missed so greatly over the last few seasons. So for me, Turnbull is an absolute shoe-in to start. I just think he just offers that little bit of creativity, that magic moment. That Tom Rogish a few years ago, he'd have that magic moment, and you knew that was in his locker. And I'd still say that he's still got that, not on the same level that he used to, but that's what Turnbull's offering now. That that little bit of chink of light. He can have a pop from 20 yards out as well, which is, like you say, there's always a chance of a deflection if it's not going in, and it's forcing the keeper. So I just think there's a lot more positive play when Turnbull's on the ball, and I just think with Forrest out there as well, just offering that little bit of freedom is just a great thing for him.
I'm not sure if you're ready for this revelation that I'm just about to drop here, but
okay.
I believe since John Kennedy was put into the interim position of manager, Ryan Christie has played very well.
Sniper, get Colin out. Really?
Yeah, I think he's actually started to play. I think he's actually started to play well. I know he had a couple of chances that he threw over the bar against Falkirk, but I think he's got a bit of a rhythm. He's got 2 and 2. And I think he suits playing through the middle. I think you're going to get 90 minutes out of Ryan Christie. The only problem I still have with Ryan Christie is he sort of still gives away these daft fouls that he should have the football intellect not to do. I mean, of a guy that how old he is, you should know when to play the foul and when to kind of just let the man go. And I'd still be very sort of sceptical about giving away free kicks, especially with the defence. I know we've just talked about how they've improved over the last couple of weeks, but I don't think you want to be giving Rangers that amount of chances to put a ball in, especially no matter if Barisic is playing brilliant or if he's not, he can still put a fantastic ball in. And just with what the Raga 3 is saying here, he can be a really good player, and he's not a right winger. Is he potentially that man to play that sort of 10 role as the kind of the forward of the 3 in midfield, and maybe Turnbull someone that could come off the bench and change the game?
Nah, I'm not having that, Colin. Somebody spiked your drink. I'm not that big of. I'm quite a big fan of Christie. I certainly am, but right now I'm certainly going with Turnbull. I really am. I think more than anything, it's attitude as well. Right now, I think Christie's attitude stinks. He doesn't. I do actually appreciate what you're saying. He's probably not maybe been wildly shooting as much. I maybe wouldn't put that down to Kennedy. I maybe put that down to the Falkirk tweet. So,
yeah.
I just that's very funny. I'm not for that. I think Turnbull has to start. I really do. He scores at the weekend there, and like I say, it's his attitude right afterwards. To me, that's not that a player that wants to be starting. I think what you're saying as well, I do think probably the majority of the team have actually improved under Kennedy. There's a lot more freedom. There's something certainly going on. There looks to be more of a team spirit, which is a bit crazy that you're having that sort of discussion in mid-April. But I don't see... I'd love to find a way that both Christie and Turnbull could be in the side, but if it comes to picking one or the other, then it's definitely Turnbull for me right now, absolutely. And I can't believe you changed your tune quite so catastrophically.
I don't. I still drive him to his next club, and I said that on Saturday. And it does annoy me that he doesn't celebrate his goals. I think if you're playing for Celtic, you want to celebrate every goal. Do you really want that comment is what I mean, sorry? No, but here's the thing, right? And it's something that Laura mentioned the other day, and it's Scott Brown. So Scott Brown, we know is moving on. We know he's going to Aberdeen. We know his future's not at the club. And a lot of people have said, well, for that reason, he shouldn't be playing. And Sorrow should be playing in that position because we know he's going to be here next season. A lot of people would say that Ryan Christie isn't going to be here next season. But when you look at it, John Kennedy is looking at results only. He's wanting to get that many wins as he can because, let's be honest here, he still probably thinks he's got a chance of getting this job. He wouldn't be kind of doing the caretaker job otherwise. And fair play to him. If he gets the next 4 wins in a row, and if he wins the Scottish Cup, then that's brilliant. Now, we've seen basically what happens when someone wins a Scottish Cup. They might actually get offered the job. I don't want him to get offered the job, right? I just want to put that out there. I don't want John Kennedy to be the next Celtic manager. But what I do want is I want the team to be winning and to go on a bit of a run so that when the new manager comes in, you've got this momentum that you can carry on to next season. And I think that's why guys like Scott Brown are still getting this run out for the team, because the result becomes the most important thing. So if John Kennedy thinks that he's going to get 90 minutes out of Ryan Christie, doing a lot of the running, a lot of the kind of heavy legwork to get us the result that we need, as opposed to maybe bringing him on with 30 minutes to go to replace David Turnbull, whose legs would start to tire. I think you start with Christie and then bring David Turnbull off the bench. The only thing that kind of lets it down is David Turnbull's set pieces have been absolutely superb this season.
I'm totally and utterly... I've got no words. I'm speechless. I can't believe this. I'm not seeing how Christie starts at the weekend. I'm really not. I get what you're saying, I really do, but you know, that sort of work ethic that we're talking about, that you're referring to with Christie, have you really seen that recently? That he's really going to be digging, and yeah, obviously he got that goal at the weekend. The press initially started from Griffiths, and then he took that finish rather selfishly as well. Took it really well, but I just don't think his attitude is in it. And for me, if you're dropping Turnbull, what does that say to him? I appreciate what you're saying, but can you really drop Turnbull when he's so on form? He's riding high, and I just think he's offering something that Christie doesn't. I get there's the experience more maybe with Christie, but nah, I'm not having it, Colin. I'm not having it.
So say the team sheet comes out on Sunday and Christie's starting over Turnbull. Do you think that?
I'm not going to cry.
No, but do you think it will have a big impact on the way that the game pans out?
I think it could be a little bit looser. I think Turnbull keeps things a little bit tighter, and that I just feel there's more opportunities. There's going to be more balls into the box because Turnbull will be getting that ball out wide. I feel Christie always wants to go so narrow himself. He doesn't really want to get out. He's a bit of a ball hogger, really. That he doesn't really offlay the ball. You know, you see the run, if it be Elynusi or Forrest, and you think, right, maybe he's just wanting to drive and try and get that shot himself. So for me, it's Turnbull. I just think he's an all-round better team player. And like I say, I am in Ryan Christie camp, always really have been, but right now I'm not feeling that he's the standout. And more than anything, it's not the fact that I don't want to bring Christie in, but I just cannot be dropping Turnbull.
That's fair enough. We're going to agree to disagree on this. And if anybody is kind of walking past the back of the Copeland road end, you might get a match ball if Ryan Christie pops up a couple of shots in the game. So it leaves us with the final two positions, and it's McGregor and Brown. I think that's it. I mean, I know, as I said, Laura Bradburn was mentioning that she'd rather see Sorrow come into there. I've seen a lot of comments saying they'd like to see Sorrow come in. But I think at the minute they're starting to build this partnership really well. I think you're seeing the best out of Brown. Brown's trying to give his final swan song for the team, and McGregor's starting to turn up for a lot of these performances where people have criticised him before already. They're the two for me that kind of play in that holding role on Sunday. Yeah,
it is absolutely. I really liked Sorrow. I really do. I still do, and I do think he should be in the plans going forward. But it's a big game to drop him into when he's not really seen a lot of action. So for me, absolutely, it's Brown and McGregor. Stability, as you say, I think the team as a whole is performing really, really well right now. And McGregor is as well. I think he's with Brown there. That little bit of pressure's off him. We spoke about it all season that he's. You know, I think maybe too much for too long has been talked about him being the next Celtic captain, and there's a little bit of pressure. So still having Brown while he can, it brings out the best in him. It really does. I think he links up really well with Greg Taylor, and it's just those little 1-2s, and I just think everything is just ticking over really well. So yeah, all in all, short answer, same lineup from the weekend.
I think you're spot on. The performances we've seen from them over the last few weeks have definitely. They've been pivotal in the way that we've played. You've seen the way that McGregor sort of spreading the ball about. We're creating a lot of chances. I think the stat came up, it was like nearly 90 shots in the last 3 games or something, 4 games that Celtic's had. And finally at the weekend we started to put a couple of them away. Elanussi's first goal is absolutely outstanding. If he was to pull one of them off at the weekend, then I think you'd hear the celebrations all over Scotland. And do you know what? If Forrest plays, I think he'll be the big pivotal player. And that's what you're relying on. You're relying on someone like him to create these chances, and hopefully Eddie sticks a couple of them away. So just to confirm, we're going with, or we'll put the 2 teams out here, but we're going with Bain in goal, Kenny at right back, Aaron Welsh with Taylor, which is probably one of the potential ones that could change. We've got McGregor and Brown. I've got Christie, which I can't believe I'm actually saying this. The amount of stick I'm getting in the comments for that as well, by the way.
It's because this has never been heard before.
You've gone with Turnbull, and we're going with Moy, Eddie and Forrest. So I think that's the kind of rough team. I can't see there being many surprise inclusions for the weekend.
Don't tempt fate.
Well, I think you'll continue to go with the sort of team that's winning, and players like Sorrow and that might get their chance in the second half, maybe a wee half hour here or there. But looking to it, are you going to throw a prediction out there, or are we just going to have to wait and see? No. That's always been the thing. Even when I was travelling up on the supporters buses, you just to go, what do you think the score will be? It's people don't like predicting that game, do they?
No, I hate predicting any game, if I'm honest. But no, I'm not for having that.
What if I say, will we get through the tie?
No, because that's picking a result. No. No, I'm not having it.
All right. I tried to get the result out of Amy. I'd say I'm quietly confident, but I suppose anything can happen. And that's staying on the fence just a bit enough.
The bear's on the fence is me.
So, the Soccer Supernova, Amy Canavan, thank you very much for joining us on the Wednesday ACSOM Bulletin. You're back on Sunday at 8 o'clock. Who is up this week?
Sandy McLaren this week. It's fantastic. Really, really good. Really, really enjoyed that. He's a fantastic guy. Really is.
He's had a lot of interesting kind of issues both in and out of football. That'll definitely be a really good listen. I'm just off the Football Insomniac, the last Wednesday Football Insomniac, when I was joined by...
Somebody's gone prime time.
Come on, you didn't even let me get the chance to introduce that. You spoiled it.
Sorry.
I had Kevin Maguire on. We discussed the Hillsborough disaster 32 years on. We also looked at El Clasico and the Champions League, so do check that out on A State of Mind. Check out Amy's show, the Soccer Supernova. That's also on the YouTube channel, and as Amy quite rightly said, thanks very much, the Insomniac is moving to Friday nights at 6pm, and that starts next week. But tomorrow, Paul John Dykes is back with John Paul Mason and Declan McConville. I am smashing this every week now.
You are. Well done. Well done. Well impressed.
One mistake and I'm learning from it. They're back tomorrow for the Bulletin at 12:30. Until then, everybody stay safe, take care, and as always, a massive hail hail.